Our leading stories, of course. Today marks exactly 7 years since the Lilly Mine tragedy. Back in 2016, Yvonne Mnisi, Nkambule and Solomon Nyirenda were working inside a lamp room. A crown pillar then collapsed and caved into the old underground mine. Their bodies have been trapped ever since. eNCA's senior reporter Aviwe Mtila is visiting the families as they hold a memorial service. Good morning to you, Aviwe. I mean, we've been hearing the pleas from the families, not only this morning with you, but for the last 7 years, asking, can you just please bring our family members' bodies back up onto the ground so we can give them a dignified burial? Is there any confidence from the families that this will actually happen? Because for 7 years, their pleas have fallen on deaf ears.
Well, there may be not much confidence, but they're still very hopeful. There was a prayer session just moments ago where they're saying that this is the 7th year, and you know the number 7 is very significant when it comes to the Bible. So they're hoping that processes will be speedily moving along. Remember that they've been living in these dwellings since 2019 in hope that it will get some sort of movement going and people to notice their plight, wanting those loved ones, Solomon, Yvonne, as well as Pretty, that were trapped here after the mine collapse back in 2016 on this very day. The chairperson of the portfolio committee in Parliament that deals with mineral resources is in fact coming to hand over a report that they completed back in 2021 in November. Now it's eventually reaching the families here. And in fact, the chairperson, Lilly Mine, joins me now just to maybe delve into what is expected here. Nkambule, thank you for joining us at eNCA. Maybe give us a brief overline of what's in the report.
Look, the report, as you have said, it was adopted in August 2021, and it has always been there in the public domain. But obviously we understand the nature of the families that had this occurrence, and that is why we had to take an opportunity when we received an invitation that there is a commemoration, 7th commemoration of the event, to say we can print out the report and then give it to them so that they can go through it, understand what has been done. I can safely say that this is a report that went through even the National Assembly, and it was unanimously adopted by the National Assembly.
What does it say? I understand it talks of reasonable compensation when it comes to the expropriation of the mine into government's hands. What does it say about the desperate plea of the families here that want the bodies and the remains of their loved ones?
Look, that is why we have said that. You'll remember that this company immediately after the incident went under business rescue. And one of the recommendations that we have made as the portfolio committee for long-term situations of this nature was that we must look at the legislation, how the two legislation can talk to each other, the MPRDA as well as the Companies Act, because what becomes a problem is that the government or any other institution is difficult to take action when a company is under business rescue. And that is why we said the issue of the license now must be a matter that government considers to do what we call expropriation with reasonable compensation. Why are we saying that? Is that in order for this process to finalize, you need to retrieve those workers that are still trapped underground. And you can only do that if you do what we call concurrent mining. At the same time, you try to retrieve those bodies. It is impossible to happen if it's still under the hands of the same people that are accused to be responsible for that incident, which is the company.
I'm sure you can see the lifestyle that the family lives. They're very rural conditions that they live in. They won't understand any of this jargon that you speak of. Realistically, what are you going to tell the families when they ask when their loved ones will be taken outside from the mine?
I think we're unfair. We've been here many times with the family. They understand every briefing. Even in November, before November, we came here as an oversight, as the committees, and we did state what are the issues that are being considered. And I think we must also appreciate the fact that tomorrow we're informed that the inquest is also taking place under the judiciary. And that is the process that unfortunately can go through. There is nothing that we can do that is outside the law. If the law restricts what has to be done, in particular by members of parliament, we are not government. We are different parties in parliament, and we all agree that that is the only process at this stage within the confines of the law that has to be considered.
Okay, so there's no clear date on when the bodies can be retrieved, or by who it's supposed to be done by?
I think it's unfair again. You should ask members of parliament when the bodies can be retrieved. I'm saying there is a process that has to be followed within the confines of the law. That is why you even have today the inquest, because that's the only process that is within the legal framework of the law. And as long as, in our view, as unanimously as members of parliament, as long as the company still has got hold over the territory where this incident took place, it's going to be very difficult to retrieve those workers. That is why we make that recommendation that there must be an expropriation or a review or revoke of the license. Once that license is sitting with somebody else, then you can be able to ask those people to speed up that process. Currently, whether you like it or not, still it's a private property, this one, and we cannot then exempt those people from taking liability and responsibility for what had happened.
All right, thank you very much. That's the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee that deals with mineral resources in Parliament. No clear indication as to when the families will actually get what they want, and that's their loved ones to be taken out of the ground. But of course, there are those processes he speaks of in terms of the inquest that is even in court tomorrow that will actually even look at the murder. But we know the bone of contention now is over the ownership of this mine, which we do know it's privately owned, but that committee recommending that it must be expropriated with reasonable compensation.
We can only but hope that this does not take hopefully another year or even another 7, and that these families really do find that closure and that peace. But Aviwe, we'll leave it there with you for now. That is eNCA's senior reporter Aviwe Mtila, coming to us, of course, from Barberton. You'll definitely be out there for the course of the day.